So we're back doing the Constitution line by line. I'm Don Frazier.
I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And we're now in the Fifth Amendment, and we're now heading into the third or fourth part of it.
Third part?
Third
part of it. Thank you to our production staff here.
Yes. Keeping us straight. We get a little punchy sometimes. But this is now going to be the part about self-incrimination.
Yes.
So this is, I plead the fifth. That's part of it.
I got a story about that.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
No one shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Okay?
Wow.
So the government cannot force you to testify against yourself. Okay? So the story I want to tell you, a man was on trial in Canada and had to testify, and he says, I plead the fifth. And the judge said, we're in Canada, not the United States.
Sorry, chump.
Okay, so remember this.
We don't believe in all those sort of weird things that y'all do down there in the U.S.
That's right. This is an American thing here, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
And if the Canadians had wanted it, they shouldn't have been Tories.
They shouldn't
have sided with the Brits.
That's right. So you don't have to testify against yourself.
What does that look like in practical terms? So you're taking the stand. The attorney comes up and says, hey, did you shoot your wife?
And you say, I exercise my Fifth Amendment rights to self-incrimination, and I'm not going to say anything. And then the instruction to the jury is that you cannot infer anything from someone taking the Fifth Amendment.
You'd see this a lot in political show trials.
Not just show trials,
but real trials.
You see it often. And
especially with white-collar crime and things like that.
Oh, yeah. And the reality is that people like to talk about what they've done, and police officers know that. So, therefore, they work to get you to testify against yourself.
Sure.
And yet we have this protection. And this protection, which applies to this and other parts of the Constitution, is now called the Miranda Rule. Okay.
Lay on. I brought it up earlier in
you did.
Earlier segment.
And the Miranda Rule is very simple. You have the right to be quiet.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything.
You don't have to say anything.
If the police, the arresting authorities are asking you questions, you can just zip.
Right. And the story about Mr. Miranda, I think his first name was Ernesto Miranda.
In Arizona.
And he was charged with a crime. And he talked about it, and he said he did not realize that he had a right to be silent and he had a right to an attorney. And so this is during the Warren Court era of the Supreme Court when Earl Warren was the Chief Justice, and it was a great expansion in how we define our civil liberties. And the Supreme Court agreed with them and said that police officers, anybody who's arresting someone, has to read you your rights. So we've seen it all on TV many times. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. Do you understand these rights?
Yeah.
And so they just say it. They know it's part of their vocabulary. And when you agree to that, either you shut up or anything you say after that
is on the record,
can be used against you.
So where's the guaranteed right to an attorney?
That comes later.
Okay.
So we'll get to that later. That's in the Sixth Amendment.
Okay.
So I believe, yes, Sixth Amendment.
Well, we'll find out here shortly, won't we?
Just make sure you've got me thinking of so many things. So now, I knew someone who used to be
I knew a guy
who was an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we were talking one day, and I asked him, how did they deal with the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent? And he just laughed at it, and he says, oh, it's so simple. He said, what we do when we arrest someone is we read them their rights.
Yeah.
Okay? And then we handcuff them, hands behind their back, and we put them in our squad car, and we put them in the back seat, put the shoulder belt over them, to make sure they're not going to be
They're
killed.
safe, yeah.
Yeah, they're safe. And then he said...
And to keep them from kicking out the window.
That too. And he said, so then in the front seat, we have 2 agents. Okay? We turn off the radio. We start driving. The 2 agents in the front don't say a word. And he says, there's nothing in the law that requires us to go immediately to the jail. So we drive.
We take them for a drive.
We take them for a drive, and we take them on the bumpiest road we can find. So they're bouncing along. There's no way they can sleep. And he said, we don't say a thing. So inevitably, people don't like that uncomfortable silence. They're going to talk. And what are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about why they got arrested.
Things in common.
And so lo and behold, he said, almost all the time, by the time we get to the jail, we have a confession.
Wow.
Okay? And did we break any rule? No, we didn't.
Just technique.
It's just technique. There you go.
That's remarkable.
Now, I don't know if any other FBI agents do that, but
Just the one that you talked to.
Just the one that I talked to, but it certainly provides a way to look at this. Now, police officers, there's been many times where they've gone to court asking that they don't have to be so stringent in the application of this, so that they don't have to do it all the time.
Do they have to do it in Spanish?
Do they have to do it in Spanish? What does it mean? Do you understand it?
Yeah.
Do you have to provide translators? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And over time, there's been a gradual whittling away of the absolute nature of the Miranda rule. So, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
By the way, what happened to Miranda? Do you know?
No.
Miranda got released. Of course, Miranda was at a bar, got into a fight, got killed in a bar fight. The people who killed him were arrested and read the Miranda rights over the body of Ernesto Miranda.
Really?
That's at least the story that's out there.
So that's closure.
That's closure on the Miranda rights. Okay? By the way, we need to remember, and it's really one of the hardest things, that we don't have to say anything when the police come to us other than, who are you? If you're driving, of course, you have to show your license, your registration, etc. But do you have to talk? No. You identify yourself. But do you have to go into any more information?
Well, and if you have a concealed carry license, you have to show that.
you have to show that too. I mean, there's things you have to do,
Yeah.
and there's no getting around. And
Because then they'll ask, are you carrying? And you have to say at least no or yes.
Or you should notify them that you're carrying. So, but beyond that, if they're going to start asking you about whatever you did, you don't have to say anything. Okay? It's a fantastic right that we have.
To say nothing.
To say nothing. But how many of us can really do that? Okay?
I mean, I've got to have the convo.
By the way, this also applies. We see it in congressional hearings where someone's going to testify, and it's possible that the behavior they engaged in might have broken the law. So they will simply take their Fifth Amendment rights, say, I'm going to use my Fifth Amendment right, and I'm not going to say anything.
Who was the one that did that most recently that was so notorious for it? Just Fifth Amendment after Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking, and I just don't remember who.
Yeah.
And they claimed it like 150
Yeah,
times.
150 Yeah, it's like, wow. We're getting nothing out of this guy.
Yeah,
Thanks for
exactly.
showing up.
Yeah. And by the way, there's nothing to prevent the government from asking you over and over again and asking you various things.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you're trying to understand what your Fifth Amendment rights apply to. It applies to everything. But does your blanket, I'm not going to talk to you, mean you're really not going to talk to him? And so the government is simply going to probe.
Yeah, they're going to keep asking questions until they hit a question that you stumble into.
Exactly.
So, did you kill your wife? No. Well, were you involved in her ceasing to exist? No.
Do you know how she died?
Yeah. Did you have anything to do with her heart stopping and causing brain death?
Yeah.
And
So
you just keep asking questions.
yeah, and sometimes you ask the same questions over and over and over again.
My gosh, it's like questioning a teenager.
There you go.
There you go. All right, so is that our line?
That's our line.
All right, so we will plead the Fifth, at least that part of the Fifth, and then we're going to look at the next piece of the Fifth Amendment next time.